This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
I am Aliss Inc. You're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and CastBox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the Scandinavian Dragon, Aliss Inc.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on as well.
Awesome. So, if anyone out there is wondering who is Aliss Inc., the Scandinavian Dragon, I recommend you go into social media and look me up there on Instagram. It's my main platform. But also, there's tons of YouTube content out there, so go and have a look and find some fun matches. And also, don't miss out on the shows coming up if you're in the same area as I am, because there's a lot of things happening, very exciting things for the spring that I think we're going to be talking about a bit later, possibly.
Absolutely. Brand new Slam Wrestling's Women's Champion, no?
That is actually very correct. And I don't know, do we have video for this, or is it just audio?
It's just audio.
It's just audio.
Yeah.
All right. I was thinking otherwise I'll show you a very, very nice belt like sitting here next to me. No, but that's true. And Slam Wrestling is obviously running a lot of shows in Finland, but also branching out in the near future and doing shows in Sweden. So that's going to be very interesting.
That it will. And of course, you can find all of her social media in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and CastBox. Let's get into it. You worked last year with STARDOME. Became a part of the faction God's Eye. Can you tell us about that experience?
Absolutely. So it kind of came in as I wasn't expecting to be at Stardom at that point of my wrestling career at all. I've always looked to Japan and thought that would be one of my dreams to go there and perform for the Japanese crowds, but I did not have any concrete plans on how and when. And then Stardom actually reached out and set up a tour. I was there at the end of 2023. Got a chance to tour multiple locations, work with amazing talent. Stardom obviously has an absolutely phenomenal stable of people working both as wrestlers and also around the shows. Got a chance to work with Julia, among other people, and then just a chance coming in as like an outsider and getting to be a part of one of the fractions is obviously absolutely amazing as well. But yeah, so about 2 months, did a lot of shows during that time. Did not see so much of Japan, unfortunately. I saw a lot of tour buses, so a lot of hotels and backstage areas. A little bit of Japan, but not much. But it was absolutely amazing, and it's different for me. That usually goes around different places every other weekend. Obviously, some are more regular than others, but it's the traveling with people in that way was a really, really nice experience. And they were just so nice, everyone, like especially the Stardom wrestlers. I know, obviously not everyone is still in Stardom, but the people that were there at that time, I mean, I could not praise them enough. Brilliant wrestlers, but also brilliant people.
The one thing I found interesting during that run was, obviously you made your name as Aliss Inc. But they renamed you Scandinavian Hurricane, no?
Yes, that is true. And I'm not exactly sure why. So I got the question before I got there if I wanted to be, because Aliss Inc. they did not think was going to be a good name for the Japanese, or for their product at least, for the Japanese audience. So they asked me if I wanted to be called Scandinavian Dragon or Scandinavian Hurricane. And I said, well, I already go by Scandinavian Dragon, so if you keep that, that makes it a lot easier for me. And I'm not exactly sure if something got lost in translation, because I wasn't talking to the people making decisions directly at this point, because this was before I got there, or if they just made a decision and changed their mind and thought Scandinavian Hurricane was better. But all of a sudden, I got announced in a promo as Scandinavian Hurricane, and that was news to me as well. Which is all good. I mean, it's I actually started to name moves and sequences a little bit like with weather things in mind just because of that, because I thought it was quite fun.
Well,
but yeah, I think it was Rossi's decision actually, because he was still the main person in charge at that time.
I got you. And you did get to work the world famous Korakuen Hall. There's fewer buildings that have just as much wrestling history attached to it. So what was that experience like, being and competing in that arena?
A bit daunting beforehand, actually, because as you're saying, Korakuen Hall is it's not just any venue. This is like the venue you've been looking at when you've seen all these big Japanese shows and all the history that's been made there. So it's a big deal. So yeah, it was very daunting to step into that arena. And then, when you get there and it's actually the day and you start carrying in the ring, and then you realize, yeah, this is another venue, this is another show, and I will be the best I can be, as I always try to be. And that kind of like, you took the drama away from me as a person a little bit. But I'm really, really happy I got a chance to actually do Korakuen Hall when I was there. And also getting to work Tekla, which really, really fun to work matches with her. She's obviously she can be a bit, one of those girls in the ring.
Somewhat
Take some shortcuts here and there, but yeah, she's a firehouse. So love her for that.
Oh, definitely. Well, taking it back to Scandinavian countries, obviously you're in Sweden, but Denmark really took a liking to Aliss Inc. You were both men's and women's Bodyslam champion at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean that's Bodyslam for starters is one of my, I'd say maybe my main promotion. Even if it's not the same country, they took me in quite early on, and yeah, they gave me opportunities that no one else could give me in this area at that time. And yeah, they run with me and I run with them basically. So that did so much for just my exposure to Europe and to the UK. I got to work, we're still getting to work some amazing people there, because they're very good at bringing in talent as well to enrich the product that they have. So absolutely, yeah. I've obviously, being from Sweden, it's a bit of a, Denmark and Sweden being neighboring countries, it's not always, at least not on the surface, the best of friends. But yeah, it's become my wrestling home in a way. And it's such a fun promotion to be in as well. It's like, I could not be happy with the crew and the backstage, and it's just like it's always a good experience going there. They're family, more or less.
What did it mean to you that they, they didn't just trust you, being their women's champion, but being, their main champion as well?
I know, and it's because obviously that's a belt that's never been held by a woman before, and also having both belts at the same time. It wasn't for a super long period of time. It was for a while, but not. I had some really good defenses with it, but then obviously I got robbed by the new faction coming up.
Correct.
Yes, but it's they've taken a lot of chances on me, and I'm really appreciative of that. It's also like, obviously in Scandinavia, having intergender matches is not really that uncommon. It's quite usual. You have at least a couple intergender matches in every promotion during the season. Some places more than others. One part of that is because there's so few women. So it's one way as well to incorporate the talent you have locally, and to get like some variation. But it's also it's very the audience here likes the concept. I mean, it's a good underdog story, and who doesn't like to see a woman kick ass? Well, other promotions, obviously, like Slam, prefer to keep the divisions separate, so like completely. So having the women's belt here is obviously, it's still a really big deal, but it's maybe not as big of a deal as it would be in, for example, in America.
Winning the Slam Wrestling the Bodyslam Championship, is that a moment you take in the moment, or is that something that kind of sits in afterwards, like, wow, I did this?
I'd say both. It's obviously beforehand, before you have like these kind of big championship chances, it's always nerves coming into that. You know, it's going to be regardless of what happens, it's going to be a big match. But then obviously everything that goes down in the ring, all of that jazz happens, and then it's just down there afterwards, and you can like raise the belt in the air, and then that's kind of when it hits you, I think. Everything up until that point is and so much other thoughts and so much other focus going into it. Just the thought of being the champion, like having the belt. I think, at least for me, that hits afterwards. Before that, it's very much focus on the goal.
Well, speaking of hard hits, and Bodyslam Pro Wrestling, can you tell us about that time you almost killed head referee Finn Corso?
Which of the times?
The tope.
Well, so yeah, I had a couple of matches, I think also in consecutive order actually, where I for whatever reason the refs kind of got in the way. Obviously not intentional, just one of those things. But yeah, it's I'm kind of known for my lethal kicks, at least around Scandinavia. So, and sometimes if the ref steps in the wrong way, things can happen. And also, when the ref's outside counting and your opponent moves when you're doing a dive, it's one of those things that can happen, right?
Yeah, I would say so. So basically you're saying it's his fault.
Basically, yes. I mean, all up to him. I never intend to do anyone that is not obviously on the opposite side of the ring harm. But yeah, being a ref can be a dangerous job for sure.
Yes, 100%. And shout out to Finn, friend of the show.
I'm sure he'll be very angry when he hears this, because obviously he doesn't see it as his fault. But
yes.
I mean, they win the match, right? What am I supposed to do? If I go for something, it's an intention behind it.
I don't want to say he was upset, but he was definitely scared in the moment.
Oh, I would be as well if my foot comes flying into my face. But
Yep. great things you've done in that area, Scandinavia, Japan, you did make your way out to America at one point. You wrestled Kylan King at CFU, which is more of a UFC type promotion. I kind of feel like that really would play to your strength, no?
Yeah, definitely. It was for being wrestling arena, obviously very different to not have the ring and the ropes in the same way. You have the cage instead. But it was really interesting working a wrestling match in that way. And obviously going back to my roots a bit, I have a martial arts experience that spans over about 20 years before even coming into wrestling. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and obviously Kylan King is really talented as well and super fun working with her. Unfortunately, though, luck was not on my side that day, and I actually came down with an injury that took me out for a couple months. So the tour I had planned, I had to abort, and actually had to go back to Sweden to get it checked on. So that was a bit of a bummer, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine. Is there any plans to make your way back to America?
Quite possibly, actually. But we'll see. We'll see what happens later this year. It's some things brewing, so it's not impossible. I'm gonna make my way over. I can't say too much more at this point, unfortunately. I have to.
I gotcha.
I have to give you a cliffhanger on that one.
Somebody from a different country coming into America, I'm just curious, what was you eating in America?
Sorry, what?
What was you eating in America?
Well, so this is the thing, right? So I was in Philly, and obviously had plans to check out the Philly casino while I was there. So the match I was talking about, the injury, unfortunately I got my jaw broken.
Ooh.
So I did not do a lot of eating during that trip, which is such a shame. I basically had like the things you eat when you get in from a long travel, and not very proper food for the first day, and thinking like I'll make up for that. Obviously I'm gonna stay here for a while, and then
right.
I try to basically I tried to get like clam chowder after the jaw break, and I couldn't even chew the soft bits in it. So that's how bad it was. I did not know that the jaw was broken at the time, though. I actually did not realize until I got back to Sweden that that's why it was so bad.
Okay, I got you. Well, on to some good stuff. You were on PWI's top 500 list and the N250 list last year. What does that kind of mean to you to be on, not just, the women's list, but also the main list as well? You were 88 on the 500 and you were 297 on the 500 and 88 on the 250.
I mean, that is so cool, I think. For several reasons. Obviously, that my work gets acknowledged from in the PWI, which is obviously a staple in wrestling, and getting there, coming from the area I come from, that makes it so special as well, because obviously Scandinavia is not particularly well represented on these lists. Partly because we're maybe not seen as much. It's also it's a very fresh scene in Scandinavia as well. Wrestling has not been around that long compared to America, for example. So it's not the wrestlers coming up now is maybe the first generations actually making it out on an international scene. Like with the people, there's a few of us from my wrestling generation, and then obviously the people coming up now the new people is trying to make their way out a lot quicker, knowing as well how to make the roads down Europe and where to go and so on. So we're kind of paving that way a little bit, I think, which is obviously super cool to see. Like, okay, but it's actually our products is getting, just both us as wrestlers and the promotions is getting seen at a different light. And also, obviously, this raises the stakes for everyone here as well, since it is getting seen. You're going to have eyes on you, and the product needs to look the part as well. And getting on the PWI list somehow shows that we're doing something right.
Right. I mean, it was on the top 250 women. This was your second consecutive year being on it as well.
Yes, it is, and it's that's super cool. I think as well, I was down in doing some work for WXW for a while, and I think that maybe as well open up a few of those doors. Because the first listing was obviously before Stardom. So the second one would be that encompassed then. But yeah, it's you look at the other names of the people on the list, and then you realize, wow, okay, this is not just any list to be on. You see, you're there with the proper superstars, and obviously all of the indie darlings as well that you look up to. So it's weird seeing your name from that perspective.
Well, I believe you were mentioning WXW. You won the Femme Fatales tournament by beating Masha Slamovich, Nikki Foxley, and Killer Kelly. Three really big names on the independents. What was that experience like?
Very stressful. It was it such an honor to be there. For starters, I think I think a few of the guys, or I know at least one of them, gone down to WXW before and done some matches. But being put in a tournament, and I think I was the first woman there to represent Scandinavia. So that was obviously super cool. Just that part in itself was cool. And obviously going over in the tournament, that meant a lot. And they put a lot of faith in me for doing that as well. And giving me that chance. And then having the final match against Masha Slamovich. Absolute powerhouse, phenomenal wrestler. And yeah, she's obviously doing great now in TNA and stuff. So just happy to see her doing well with things. We'll be hopefully our path will cross somewhere again.
Well, I mean, you have a W on the TNA Women's Champion, and Masha is one to like to settle scores. So maybe, TNA Women's title match.
Masha, if you hear this, just come at me. I'm all here. That's probably famous last words right there.
When it comes to Masha, probably.
I mean, I'll take my chances, but yes.
That tournament you won, former winners of that tournament were big names like Lufisto, Miko Satomura, and Tony Storm. What does that kind of mean to you to have your name next to those names?
It's always when I see myself, so same when I see myself in the PWI is when I see myself listed with those kind of former winners, and you look at it, it's like, how can that be me? So it's not, because I'm obviously when you do it the way I'm doing it right now, right from in wrestling, a quite secluded part of the world, having wrestling as a huge part of my life, but also doing other things to make my life go around up here. It makes it, but it is odd because you look at these people and they're doing it at such a level and on such a platform. The economy is not comparable. so it's a very abstract feeling to see that. But that's the way wrestling is. Wrestling is obviously huge in a way, but also quite small. It's like, you know people. If you don't know people directly, you will know someone that knows them and worked with them in some show somewhere. So it really is a smaller world than you think, even so if it's so spread out, which is really cool. It's like this weird spread out circus community somehow.
Obviously WXW is in Germany. Any difference in crowds that you noticed compared to Sweden?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say we're very spoiled, and I say this a lot, but we're very spoiled in Scandinavia with our crowds, specifically in Denmark, but also in Sweden and Norway and Finland. We usually get quite loud crowds, quite rowdy crowds that is also very new to wrestling, usually.
Right.
You get this raw crowd where you can draw out these raw emotions for something they're not used to and not experienced a lot. Compared to in Germany, for example, where you have a crowd that is quite wrestling educated by this point, and they know what to look for and they react in a very different way or to different things. So especially since I went there now quite a while back, the first time, it was a bit of a culture shock for me. Being used to have reactions to certain things that I wasn't getting there in the same way, at least. So yeah, it was different to work there, and I think having experienced that and everything I've experienced since, I've obviously learned to understand this more and more and how to see what a crowd needs in a different way. But then that was scary, and you start questioning, wow, is it me doing this wrong? Or so it easily gets in your head when you're not used to that kind of crowd.
I gotcha. Did you experience something similar in Japan when you first started wrestling there?
In a way, I'd say, because the Japanese crowds is they're not like the German crowd either, but they're also very different, obviously, to the rowdy crowds in Scandinavia.
Right.
But I would say I was expecting it a lot more, and obviously watched quite a bit of Japanese wrestling, so I had more of a feeling to what to expect stepping into the ring. So I actually really like working for the Japanese crowds. I mean, I like working for the German crowds as well, but I think I could have done a better job with it today than I was equipped to then.
Okay.
But yeah, the Japanese crowds is obviously, they're very polite.
Right. Another thing about working for WXW is that you can find Aliss Inc. on Peacock. What does that kind of mean to you to have your matches featured on Peacock, a part of the WWE content?
Actually, I mean, I'd say, because obviously Peacock, I assume that's the case in the US now, that it's not a thing anymore, but with everything being put over to Netflix, right?
Yeah, but it's we're kind of in a weird transition where everything's on Peacock, but they're transitioning some stuff onto Peacock.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. No, but it's obviously very cool to be on the network, as it was at least, and possibly still then. But yeah, I haven't actually thought about that part so much. Maybe partly because the WXW experience was in a lot of ways also very humbling to me, because I didn't quite get the groove of my wrestling in that promotion, unfortunately. Although I had some super fun experiences, and I got to meet a lot of really talented and amazing people. So that was the good part of it. But I also I felt I had this maybe a bit of a block with my own performance in certain matches. So I haven't been super happy with that run as it is. Which again, I can maybe parts of it at least chalk down to inexperience at the time. But it is what it is, and wrestling is always a learning experience. And if you think you know everything, you probably know a lot less than anyone thinks, to be honest. Because it's the same with martial arts as well. It's like you're never going to learn everything. You always things you can get better at. So you just need to figure out what do I need to polish and what do I need to work on right now to make it to the next step, basically. But yeah, so I have not watched my own matches on the network. I watched the matches obviously for just to be able to analyze it for myself. But it's yeah. So being there is super cool, and I know as well that obviously there is an audience for it there, but the matches in themselves, I think I have better content different places, to be honest.
All right. Well, can you tell us about that time you, Kenzane, and Ozzy Miller traveled with an unwilling Stanislaw?
But then, he's always unwilling. Which instance was this?
Where you all shared a room and he just could not get away from you, Dre?
Oh my god, yes. Okay, so we were actually in Finland. And I don't know how much you know about Scandinavian or Nordic geography, but Helsinki, that is the capital of Finland, and Stockholm, which is the capital of Sweden, which was basically our route for this show. It goes these cruiser ships between those two places. Takes maybe about, I can't remember exactly, but let's say about 20 hours to get across. So yes, so we had the show in Finland, and we were taking the boat back. And I know poor Stanislaw, he just, wherever he turned, it was either me, it was Miller, or Kenzane, just being right there, being just an annoyance to him. And we didn't do anything. I mean, we were just there, right? We were on the same boat. It's a huge boat, but just somehow, wherever he turned, there we were. But yeah, no, that was a very fun trip, actually.
My favorite one was you were all in the bathroom.
Yeah, this is like when you give wrestlers too much time, these kind of things happen. It's just what it is.
Well, speaking of pro wrestling, one thing that I find interesting is that you do wrestle barefoot. Can you tell us the advantages and disadvantages of wrestling barefoot?
Absolutely. So I'd say, because coming from a martial arts background, I've done the main part of my training experience barefoot one way or another. I don't particularly like training in shoes. Even if I go to the gym, I always don't go barefoot because that's offensive to some people. But I mean, I still wear these kind of like barefoot type shoes because I do like the grip and I do like the feel of the floor. When I'm working out, and also in kicks, obviously martial arts, I can feel the pivot on the surface very differently. And it's a little bit, it feels wrong in some weird way to kick someone in the face with the boot. Because I'm just being conditioned to work barefoot. So when I transitioned over to wrestling, I actually started off trying to wear boots, and I didn't quite like it. And then I just tried doing it barefoot, and yeah, decided that this feels a lot better. And also, obviously, people were telling me as well, it's like, well, if you like it barefoot, keep going with it. Just be careful so you don't injure your feet, but it's also going to make you stick out. So, and that's obviously the thing. The risk of injuries is maybe slightly higher. I've had a few things with my feet as well, obviously from wrestling. For example, taking superplexes and overshooting a little bit and landing with my heels very badly. Quite painful if you're not wearing boots. Probably with boots as well, to be honest. But yeah. Also, like walking the ropes and those kind of things it takes a while to getting used to being barefoot on the ropes, actually, because they do hurt a bit. But it works for my wrestling style, I think, and I do feel more confident when I'm bare feet. Obviously, though, just putting it out there, if I'm ever starting to do hardcore style matches, I probably would wear bare boots. That's my biggest fear, to step in like a thumbtack or someone like left in the ring, or I mean, even if someone poured Legos out, to be honest, that would probably be quite terrible. So yeah, I'd say that's the exception to the rule then, if that were to happen.
Is that something you're looking to explore? Doing more hardcore matches?
I mean, I've done some no DQ matches and that kind of stuff, and I do think it's fun to get that extra challenge, to have that extra element in the ring. That okay, you work with different things. It's not something I'm particularly looking for, but if the opportunity arises and it's there for a reason, yeah, sure.
All right, I think it's time for Aliss's bizarre adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, possibly. It's okay. So I'll tell you this one. This was actually a show that was in Sweden. But it wasn't in my hometown. It was quite a bit from it. I'd say maybe a 6-hour drive, almost at the Danish border. So I'm going down with this other wrestler, Marcus Mann, and we're traveling this distance on the day of the show. We do the match. I get a concussion during the match as well.
Ooh.
And Marcus in this instance had face paint and stuff in his face. Quite a few things. It was one of these shows. There's a lot of things going on. That's not the point. The point is we're driving back the same day. So we get in the car straight after the show, heading back, and. So this is probably very weird to hear for an American audience, but I do not have a driver's license. It is actually not that common where I'm from, for my generation at least, to get driver's licenses, because it's so easy to commute, and the driver's license also costs a lot of money, as to owning a car. So it's just something I never prioritized. So poor Marcus is driving, and obviously doing the drive down, doing a match, driving all the way back middle of the night, it's quite tough. So we decide, no, okay, so we're gonna have a bit of a sleep. So stops there. We find some kind of like place that we can stop the car for a bit. It's a bit of a dark patch, but it's kind of like a small road going up from the main road. It's like, all right, perfect. We can be here for a bit, have like a couple hours sleep, and then we'll head on. We're just about time to stop the car, and we start like trying to like keep. This is the middle of winter as well, so it's very cold outside. So we've been like putting up the heat in the car, so it wouldn't. When you stop the car, obviously that's gonna slowly decline. So it's like, okay, but it's nice and cozy now. I can try to get a few hours rest. 15 minutes later, about someone comes knocking on the door, and we're kind of like, shit, what was that? I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I apologize.
Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want.
All right, thank you. No, so we both basically get jump scares, like someone's at the car. But okay, Marcus weaves down the window, the cold air is like gushing in. I'm sitting there, I'm a bit like, all over the place, but still a bit concussed, looking a bit rough. I think I had some marks on my face as well. And him obviously with like full, like the leftover face paint. looking like I don't know, red tomato in the face. So the person outside the car is obviously a cop, and he starts asking questions, but he's not asking because obviously he's at the driver's by the driver's door, but he's not directing any questions to Marcus. And it takes me and him a bit of time before we realize why, because he's asking my name, he's asking me if I know who I'm with, and so on. And then we realize, oh, right, he thinks probably that I'm a prostitute. So it's like, no, I'm here on my own accord. We're just driving back. We're having a bit of a, transition between cities in the middle of the night. And yeah, are we okay to stand here, officer? So yeah, once they're certain that I'm not actually very involuntary, he tells us that this is apparently a drop-off spot for drugs. And strongly advises us to move on and sleep somewhere else.
Okay.
So yeah, but that was a really awkward conversation, and just the feeling of being there in the car and looking at the two of us is like, yeah, how do we explain this to a cop? Because I look beat up, he looks like a madman.
Right.
We're sitting in the middle of nowhere, in a dark area, in a car. We can't really explain, okay, we've done a wrestling show, because it's such an odd thing in Sweden. It's just like, or maybe it's so out of the ballpark it wouldn't actually make sense. I don't know. But it's, one of those things is like you realize my life is very absurd. So yeah, we drove on after that because he did let us go. With, like I said, a very strong recommendation to not be exactly where we were.
Right.
Yeah,
you didn't
we
get
get into work on Monday morning. It's like, yeah, that happened this weekend. I can't tell anyone about this because no one will believe me.
Right. And I mean, you might have had even a bizarre adventure if that cop didn't tell you to move along.
I'm very happy they did, because the alternative would probably been a lot worse.
Right.
But yes, yeah, the drive was between Stockholm and Malmö, so for a couple national promotions.
Definitely a bizarre adventure, to say the least. And we found out that Aliss Inc. doesn't have a driver's license either.
There you go. I'm an expert at commuting.
Because, like, in America, like, once you, like, learn how to be a pro wrestler, like, the second thing you have to do is get a driver's license if you don't already have one. Because you have to commute.
Yes. And it's very different commuting, obviously, in the US, how the communication systems are built up. So that makes a lot of sense. And I know that's the thing as well for other areas around Europe, and I think UK as well is quite dependent actually on licenses and being able to drive around. But yeah, it's sometimes a downside not to have that. But so far I managed to get around fairly okay anyway, so.
Well, you did mention Marcus of Man. You and him have the first ever wrestling school in Sweden. What was?
Yeah, sorry, to continue.
I mean, there's a lot of everything's been done in pro wrestling at this point. What does it mean to you and him to be, the first, wrestling school in Sweden?
I mean, that is a truth with a bit of a modification, though. So we're not the first wrestling school if you count the promotions training center. For some promotions I've had on and off, but we've been the first school to just be a wrestling school and only focusing on developing new wrestlers instead of trying to push a specific promotion and doing training just specifically for their shows. So this is a free space to train wrestling, so to speak, and then you can work with whoever you want to work with. And that was the idea, and we did this because we felt that was something that was lacking
Right.
Also in the Stockholm area, it's been a lot of on-off with training venues, which this is very unfortunate, and that is because it's hard getting good venues for to have a training school that is also possible price-wise to keep running. But we wanted to give this a shot. Unfortunately, we did actually lose the venue. We still have the training company, and hopefully we can pick it up soon. But we did lose the venue New Year's.
Oh.
They're gonna redo the premises, so it's just the way it's gonna be. But it's we had a couple of years doing this, training people maybe about 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times each one of us. And yeah, I think we've produced some pretty amazing people, pretty amazing talent from it. That's obviously still need to work. 2 years training is not a long time by any means. But they started going shows in Stockholm and in other nearby promotions, and I think keeping at it now, and we're gonna have some really, really good stars coming from Scandinavia in the near future.
Oh, for sure. One distinct honor you had was you helped Evil Dead the musical.
You really done your research. I'm impressed. Yes. So okay. So my dream when I was a kid was not to be a wrestler. I did not know wrestling existed because it was not on TV so much in Sweden. But my dream was to become a stunt woman. And then obviously that's not the easiest path to take either. But I did start martial arts. Did that for obviously a long time. Fell into wrestling by chance, and but obviously I've always been interested in stunts and always in movie production and just stunt choreography and fighting choreography. I think is really interesting to study, and obviously something I would like to do more of as well. So they get contacted by Evil Dead the musical just to check if they could help with some ideas and just a few bits and pieces that they can incorporate in their musical. And ended up doing actually some of the fight scenes together with their dance choreographer, and that was so much fun. A really good crew there as well, and fun people. So I did get to see it twice actually. Once it was up as well. First time on the rehearsal, and the big fight scene was they completely missed everything on it. So it's like everything else was great, but that they completely watched, and I was sitting there, it's like, okay, this is still entertaining, but I can see what they're trying to do, but they're just not there right now. But obviously, rehearsals are supposed to be a bit messy.
Right.
I heard they nailed it on the premiere. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there for that one, but I went a few shows later, and they did such a good job with it. So just bits and pieces, obviously. It's not obviously being on a stage floor is very different to being in a wrestling rings for a lot of reasons. But yeah, it's cool seeing like you're able to incorporate some of the martial arts stuff I've done before wrestling as well, and then the wrestling bits and pieces as well into different media. Yeah, that's a big finale. Like the big fight scene is the finale of the entire musical, basically. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
Definitely. I don't think when I think Evil Dead, the first thing that doesn't come to mind is musical.
No, it's not for me. Well, it wasn't for me either, in all honesty. I did watch the movies though. When I was younger, quite a bit, and I do like the genre. I think it's a lot of fun with those kind of movies. But I did not see it as a musical before I heard it was a thing. But it's apparently a bit of a cult following to the musical brand, and it's been done in loads of different places all over the world.
So basically, like, if you did see the movie, you'd be like, okay, and this is where they start to burst out into song now.
Yes, I believe that would be the case.
Well, that being said, can you tell us about your love of anime?
Yeah, absolutely. Been watching anime for a long time, actually. It's not as well, nothing that was really available when I was a kid in this area, but I mean, apart from possibly Sailor Moon, which I was not very interested in. That was not quite my thing. But it's I think the first anime I actually really get hooked on was the movie Akira. And I realized, okay, there's something here that I really do like. And then it took a while, but starting to get into it more, and started as well to spend more time with people that was already very into anime, and like it kind of like they gave me tips on what to watch, and you get kind of like introduced into it. It's almost like it's a subculture. Well, very much then, at least, was very much a subculture thing. It wasn't loads of anime available on the streaming services around here then either. So, but starting to download it. Not gonna say how, because obviously wouldn't do anything illegal, but for reasons exactly. But yeah, started to watch Naruto, for example, and Bleach and One Piece and all of these like bigger ones, but also like the more uncommon ones as well, like Death Note. So that's fairly common as well, to be fair. But Attack on Titan that came later as well, and a lot of like the short ones as well, like Cowboy Bebop, and just consuming a lot of anime. Different styles of it, but and I'm finding it very, very compelling, and the way of storytelling as well, like the slow builds. And I find there's a lot of things in common with how you build stories in anime and how you do it in wrestling.
Oh, for sure.
It's this. I mean, obviously, storytelling in general has a lot of similarities in different medias, but especially I'd say in anime, also with how a fight is built and how the arc of a heel or a face goes. There's a lot of commonalities with the anime story arcs. So it's really cool to see, and I do like that way of building an intrigue.
What's your go-to? What's your favorite?
My favorite anime, oof. I'd say favorite all time, possibly Attack on Titan. I think that was really, really well made, and I did like that a lot. The one I am following the most right now, I'm actually trying to catch up on One Piece. Because since that's been going so long, I'm kind of go in and out a little bit of it. You kind of want to have a couple episodes like to watch before you start watching it again, obviously, because it goes quite quickly.
Right.
But it's a lot of good ones out there, and obviously there's other ones that is a bit too similar to things you want to watch as well, obviously. So I'd say it depends a bit on mood as well, actually. I mean, I was really fascinated with Gintama for a while, for example, because just the references and then the comedic aspect of it was so different to what I was watching. The other animes I was watching at the time, but it's like it made I did like the way of tweaking it. One Punch Man is similar in that aspect as well. It's like these fun parts, bits and pieces that I pick from other places and get inspired by. So it's but yeah, it's a tough one, because obviously when you're watching an anime, and especially if you kind of like binge watch it a bit, you will get very engulfed in that story for a while, but then when it ends, you move on to the next one. It's just the way it goes. And with anime as well, it's unfortunately sometimes the ending doesn't quite hold up the build.
Oh,
which
100%.
Yes.
It is very...
So that can also you can be so interested in the story, and then you just feel like the ending is just it just takes the air out of everything.
Unfortunately, that's very common
actually-
for anime, unfortunately.
Sorry, the
Unfortunately, that's very common for anime.
yes, it is. I see another one that's really good with that though. That kept it up to the end and super good story as well. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's
Oh,
also
hell yeah.
one of my favorites. That's just like such a nice. The whole it's the start, middle, ending, everything is kind of makes sense, and it's just really compelling in the way it's told.
Definitely the best ending. Curious, have you seen the ending of Attack on Titan?
I have actually not. I have still to watch the last season. Am I gonna get disappointed? Do I want to know this?
Okay, no spoilers.
No spoilers, please.
How far along in One Piece are you in?
Right now, I am actually. I'm still waiting for the white gear to show up. So I'm just in the fight with Kaido.
Okay, so you're in a Wano arc.
Yes.
Okay.
So I know I have quite a lot to actually catch up on.
I mean, you're further along than I am. I only finished Whole Cake Island.
There you go. But you have a lot to look forward to.
Maybe 3 years, I'd like to say.
It is amazing how long that's been going, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. If you look at it, it's like it's a life work. To draw those characters and just makes life work for ages and ages. I mean, I don't know how he does it.
I just feel bad for the people that started this 25 years ago and are still waiting for him to reveal what the One Piece is.
I mean, I've heard rumors that the I cannot think of his name now. I'm so sorry, but the creator of One Piece, that he has an idea of how he's gonna finish it, but who knows? We maybe have to wait 25 more years.
Yeah, it's probably going to be another 5 years for sure, just the way he writes, but yeah, from what I've heard, he definitely he said that it's definitely not friendship. There is an actual One Piece.
Yeah. I mean, it would be such an anticlimax if it wasn't by this point.
I mean, yeah, a lot.
In a way, though, it would be kind of perfect if there wasn't, but so it's like everyone's just gone on this like wild goose chase for decades and decades. But yeah, I think I mean, at least I can only speak for myself, but I would get very disappointed if I never find out.
Yeah, definitely. Who's your favorite Straw Hat?
My favorite, sorry?
Your favorite Straw Hat?
Oh, I mean, coming from martial arts, it's just it has to be Zoro. I know that's a conventional answer but I mean, he's really cool.
Oh yeah. Favorite non-Straw Hat character?
That's a bit harder, actually. I mean, there's so many like interesting characters coming and going, I think.
Right.
I don't know. Smoker is obviously, like, if you look at the earlier ones, one of the best ones from the early days.
Yeah.
But it's been so many coming and going, so I kind of feel like I have to pass on that one. I have to think about that properly.
Maybe an easier question. Favorite arc?
Oof. Yeah. It's actually Skypedia, possibly. I quite like that one, actually.
Okay.
I know that's not, a lot of people did not for different reasons, but it's I think that was one of the arcs when I started to really get into it. I think that could also maybe have been more about what I was doing at the time, apart from watching anime. But it's I did actually quite like that, and yeah, it's just on the top of my head. That's kind of what I want to say.
And Jullabok, yes or no?
Which one you said? The
Jullabok.
uh,
Do you like
yes,
that? Oh.
I did actually like that one. It's I found some of the characters very annoying in it, but it's as an arc, yes, I'd say. Also, obviously for I think they moved the story in an okay direction with that one. I actually do think that.
Well, I ask because it's one of the more controversial seasons of One Piece. People either really like it or really hate it. So
Yeah.
there's like no two ways about it.
I mean, I honestly I'd say though I'm a little bit in between. It's like it's definitely not my favorite arc, but I'm okay with it. I think it has some good parts in it. It's also like Brooke coming in as a character and everything with that, obviously.
Right. Alright. Now, can Aliss tell us about her ink?
I can tell you I have a lot of it.
Yes.
No, but so I've always been fascinated with tattoos, even since I was a kid, and I was drawn to that art style or that medium for expression, and it's just I mean I used to like already as a 10-year-old I was doing tattoo designs because I thought it was fun. Obviously not great ones, but still like that kind of art design things. So I've always been interested in it. When I was 17, I got my first actual tattoo, which is a little bit too early for Swedish regulations. But I had a friend that was 18, which is when you're okay to do it. So they kind of snuck me in. It's like, yeah, you can. Oh, she's 18, so I'm sure you're okay. So I did my first one. I sat for 4 hours for my first one. Which is probably not to recommend. I think the tattoo artist was quite slow on it though, but in hindsight. But yeah, it's just, I did a couple quite early on. It was just before the tattoo boom. This was before like when tattoos started popping up everywhere. So it was still kind of like, at least here, like the traditional, like, okay, you go to a tattoo artist, you look in a book, you decide what design you want to have, as it used to be back in the day.
Right.
But I didn't pick those kind of designs. I had other like things drawn up for them to make, which was more uncommon at the time. So I did a couple quite early, quite close to each other, and then I had a big break with it. Didn't do any tattoos for quite a while. Still liking it, obviously, as a medium, but during that time, it became more common, it became more of a thing. Miami Ink and those kind of series started to air here as well. So people got a different opinion maybe as well about tattoos. And I was looking at some of my old ink, and I changed body types quite a lot between those years, from being extremely scrawny or skinny, but I mean, very, very small in my body, to actually starting to train, to starting to eat more properly, and starting to actually build a bit of a trained body. Some of the tattoos with that started to actually change their shape. I started to look a bit off, so I was like, all right, I don't quite like that, because the dragon tail on this tattoo looks like it's misshaped and it's like it's getting weird. So I decided I was gonna start looking through the tattoos I had and started to make more of a unit. Obviously very interested in Japanese culture and art style, and I decided to go with like a Japanese type frame for my tattoos, like a Irasumi bodysuit style. The idea to begin with was just to do the arms and upper back. And then got to a point where I've done the arms, I've done the back, and then talk to the tattoo artist. Should we continue this a bit further down? Maybe go, do a bodysuit that ends just below the butt cheeks. I was like, yeah, maybe we should do that. And then we got that done, which was some of the most painful tattoo sittings I've ever done. I was like, well, we've done this now. Should we not go down to the knees? Because, we can just draw out the bodysuit a little bit. So yeah, we went down to the knees. And after having done that, I was like, no, actually, let's do the whole legs as well. So it's just always like added on. I have not done anything now, though, in quite a long time. My tattoo artist that I went to for all of the more recent bodysuit work I've done with all the motifs and all the backgrounds and everything, he actually retired. And I was his last customer, or one of his last at least, before he, on the day I think he went back to Gotland, where he lives. So it's an island just outside Stockholm. And said like, well, you're done now. We've been doing this like on and off for 10 years. So, you're actually done. I can retire in peace. But yeah, no, he was a lot of fun. I do miss our sitting sometimes. Not so much the pain. I can deal with pain, but I don't seek it. But yeah, it was always fun. You get to, when you go to someone that often, you sit for several hours, obviously, in quite a bit of pain, and you start talking about things. So it was always a good person to chat with about just random stuff. Sometimes music, sometimes we talked about ghosts, we talked about like all the, just, it could be anything, any topic, for hours on end, and that becomes a part of the experience, I think, when you do more tattoos, or like bigger ones.
Has Aliss Inc. ever had a paranormal experience?
I'm sad to say no, I have not. I think I'm interested in it as a thing. I think it's interesting because we can never 100% know anything, right? Because we just don't. We think we know a lot, and we probably do know quite a bit, but everything has not been explained. But I'm very skeptical in my way of thinking about things, and I'm kind of like, well, if I see it, if I can actually understand it myself, I can see it. If I can not necessarily touch it, but if I have that experience myself, I'm willing to change opinion. But I have not had a paranormal experience, which means I will not say that I believe it at this point.
I gotcha. Going back to tattoos, is there any tattoo that you have that has special or significant meaning to you?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, it's I don't do memorial tattoos. I've considered it, but I have not done it. So I don't have that kind of that kind of memory or feeling attached to the tattoos. But it's obviously all the motifs are chosen for a reason. Whether that being that I like the idea of the motif, or that is actually means something to me on a personal level. I mean, I've chosen, for example, a Scandinavian animals on my thighs, but done in a more like Japanese style, obviously with the background especially. But it's I've chosen that because not the bigger ones either. It's like the smaller predator animals that is actually found in the regions, like the wolverine and the lynx. And I have that because it's kind of like not an identity thing per se, but I do like the idea of the small body in this animal being the fierce one, and obviously being just the feeling as well, but like the northern spirit in them somehow. While other ones, I mean, I have a baku. If I slaughter the pronunciation now, I do apologize, but it's a Japanese spirit that eats nightmares, or a Japanese demon, which I'm also very happy about. It's like I kind of like I have an idea with the tattoos, obviously, as they are, but it's gonna take me quite a while to go through all of them, though.
I could imagine, yes. Is there plans for new tattoos, or you don't?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm kind of done. I do think that it depends as well. I said before I don't do memorial tattoos, but I actually do consider sometime maybe doing a small black rose somewhere for my grandma. The reason being, she's unfortunately not in this life anymore.
Try for your luck.
But that was the only tattoo that she said, because she was not I mean, she was not a person that would get a tattoo, but she always said, and she wasn't super happy about mine all the time, but she kind of accepted it. I was like, yeah, it makes sense on you. But she always said, like, she saw this like black and white movie, like a really old movie when she was maybe not younger, but younger than I knew her, and it was about this woman that was kind of getting all the men to swarm around her because she was telling them that she had a black rose on her butt cheek. And that was a part of the movie for whatever reason. And she brought this up so many times. Every time I got a new tattoo, she was talking about this black rose. If I ever got a tattoo, I would get a black rose. So I'm thinking maybe at some point I will get that black rose for her. We'll see.
All right. I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Oh, that is such a good question. Oh my god, okay. That's hard. That is really hard. I'd say I maybe would want something on a personal level at the start of the movie from the album Toxicity with System of a Down, because that's one of my all-time favorite albums. But
okay.
But which song and why it would be on the soundtrack? That's a different question altogether. I mean, I have I don't know. My entrance music is custom made actually by my cousin who lives in Denmark. So that would obviously at least the intro to it would be nice to have somewhere in the start of the movie as well. It's actually played with it's obviously guitars and regular instruments as well, but the main part of the start of that is actually played on key harp, which is an extremely difficult instrument to master and very specific of the region as well. So yeah, maybe parts of that I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't like something from the Toxicity album, just on a personal level, but something that really speaks Aliss is a bit harder actually. Because I mean, obviously, Aliss is almost like this gaming character, like the hot kick-ass fighter gimmick. But it doesn't always, depends on where you are, which promotion, obviously, but it doesn't always go that much further down than that necessarily, which makes it hard to pinpoint music to it as well. But I will say this, and I used this actually when I started as my entrance for a while as well. Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin. I think that one has to be there somewhere as well.
Okay. Well, definitely a solid 3 picks, to say the least. Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Oh no! Okay, this is super hard. Who would play me? That is such a good question. I can't go like what's the movie that's out now by Robbie Williams, do like a AI character, can I?
Ooh, I like that idea.
Just I mean that would be interesting actually, but I assume that is not exactly what you're asking.
I mean, it's not exactly what I'm asking, but I am interested in this concept now.
Who would play me? It's like, does it matter if it's someone current or could it be from any era?
Anybody, alive, dead, young, old, CGI's a thing. We have unlimited budget. We can make it work.
Oh, perfect. Let's race to that. No, sorry. I think maybe. Oh, it's a tough one. It is such a tough question. I mean, I'd say what's the me and names. You have to help me a little bit. What's the this is not for likeness, just because it's one of my inspirations when I grew up, from like strong female characters.
Okay.
But what head actress from Alien movies?
Oh, Sigourney Weaver.
Thank you. There you go. That would be super cool.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't look anything like me though. She's a hell of a lot taller, and but yeah. I mean, if I can do a fantasy pick, why not, right?
Hell yeah. This is your movie. We're getting who you want.
We'll make it work.
Now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Oh. Okay. So, I would have, for a lot of reasons, but I would have to have Marcus Oman in the movie.
Obviously.
Yes, and he would be played by the animated Disney character that is the antagonist in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, so Beast.
No. So, sorry, not the Beast, but the Gaston, is that his name?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yes.
Very bad names. I'm so sorry. But yes, so he would be played by a cartoon character because I don't know why, but I find that very fitting.
Okay.
Let's see who else. So, and it's obviously it would be so many like wrestlers obviously involved in this, but I would also have to have my my sensei, my martial arts teacher. That's obviously been a huge part of how I got into martial arts, and all the training with that leading up to the wrestling, and still one of my best friends. And I'd say, just for the sake of it, have him played by Dolph Lundgren.
Okay.
So, not because of the acting chops, but for whatever reason, it's just like I just hear the quote, if we die, we die, and it's just like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
So, right. So, who else? I think I would also maybe Now it becomes tougher, because I mean, obviously there's loads of people within wrestling that's played a huge part in my wrestling career. People I've had feuds with, people that's been supportive, people that's been helped me with trainings, that's been around, just, you know, bits and pieces, tips. But maybe maybe that's not the route I should go. for this one.
I mean,
Maybe it is actually.
I do limit it to 3, but you could say more names if you'd like.
We could be here all night if I'm gonna have to think about everyone as well. I'll go with the wrestling one then. I'm thinking I would have to have Emerson James in this movie as well. Her and me's been feuding in Bodyslam predominantly on and off. She actually was the first Bodyslam Women's Champion. They did like a mini tournament for the belt when it was introduced. Her and me went to finals, and she got the belt, and which I later reclaimed. We've had matches since as well. She's been a reoccurring foe, so to speak, within wrestling. But yes, I think I would have her played by, let's say, again, names, but the actress from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the main character.
Jessica Parker.
Is that her name?
It's Gello Parker. I think it's Gello.
Doesn't ring a bell, but you know who I'm talking about at least.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh yeah. Yes, there you go. Yeah. I reckon that's a good fit because the fierceness is definitely there.
All right, this is sounding like a great movie. I never knew that I wanted Sigourney Weaver to wrestle Sarah Michelle Gellar and have an animated beast in there somewhere. But yeah.
I mean, it definitely sounds like a concept, right?
It's definitely an interesting.
You get anyone to sign up on this? I'll do the stunt choreography myself. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure there's going to be a couple musical numbers as well.
Yes, absolutely. I know a great dance choreographer. We just get her involved as well.
It's sounding like a great movie. A blockbuster, to say the least. And you could pre-order the tickets now.
Preferably pay now as well, so, see it as a kickstart.
Yes, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, however you like. On to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I'm actually for it, which is, it's very common here. But that's not the only thing we put on pizza, though. So, pineapple is actually quite tame compared to a lot of other things around here.
Okay, so
one of the more common pizza variants in Sweden is actually pizza with pineapple, banana, and curry. Like curry spices, not curry sauce, but.
That's definitely an interesting take on pizza for sure.
I mean, it's actually not bad. It's very different from obviously everyone with Italian heritage will turn in the graves from hearing this, which I do apologize for. But yeah, if you don't look at it as pizza, it's quite nice.
Okay, so we are pro pineapple on pizza.
Yes.
I'm
sure that's going to cause a lot of disturbance somewhere.
You've gained a lot of new followers, but you lost a lot of followers as well. But it balances it out.
Yes, that sounds about right, actually.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon?
Spirit Pokemon.
Spirit Pokemon. Oh, okay. So I did actually, and this is obviously maybe a bit odd for someone that has watched a lot of anime, but I did not watch Pokemon at all. So I'm not really that familiar with all of them. I mean, and I know about Pikachu obviously, and some of the more common ones, but I have a hard time putting in the context. But I do believe there's a dragon-ish Pokemon that breathes fire.
Charizard.
There you go. I quite like that one, so let's go with that.
Alright. Now, weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Oh. I mean, I'd say like this. I would definitely consider it, and if it makes sense for where this wrestling match is supposed to take place, yes. But right time and place for that kind of matchup, I think.
Okay. Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
I know who Psycho Mike is, and I'm absolutely not surprised. I actually was at a show once where a guy wrestled a tomato.
Ooh.
That was actually he did it quite well, but it was so this was the thing. This was in the Rings of Europe, and they run a 2-show thing on that day. So I wasn't actually on the show where the tomato wrestling took place. I was on the show previous to that, which was the women's show. But within this show, and I was obviously then watching from the backstage area because everyone wanted to see how the tomato was going to do. They had a wrestler in the promotion that had a tomato gimmick, I think it was, or a ketchup gimmick, something like that. And he would walk out to the stage with a tomato. For whatever reason, I do believe he was ill or injured or something like that, but he couldn't make the show. And he was supposed to be a part of this gauntlet match. So what they do is the first, not the first, well, technically then the second wrestler out, but for the first part of the gauntlet match, this, can't remember who it was, but I think it was a Romanian wrestler, possibly. But the first part of the gauntlet match, there's this wrestler, and since the tomato gimmick guy could not make it, it's just his tomato. And he actually kind of made the match work. Because, you can't pin a tomato because the shoulders are not down. So he tried to put his hands on it. No, the ref wouldn't count. He tried to put it in a headlock, but he wouldn't tap. It's...
Yeah.
He won that part of the gauntlet by picking up the tomato and putting it outside the ring, so it got counted out.
Okay. Cheers for him for thinking on the fly.
I mean, if anyone ever faced with a tomato or possibly a potato, who knows? That's how you do it.
I feel like wrestling a tomato is maybe even harder than wrestling a rock because, it's depending on how ripe it is, it could break fairly easy.
That's also very true. I mean, all kudos for the wrestler actually pulling this off.
Oh, for sure.
It was very entertaining to the backstage, I can tell you that much.
All right. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, that's a hard question to ask, I think, right now. Or sorry, not to ask, but to answer. Because we'll see. In 5 years' time, we'll see if I'm still around wrestling. Right now, obviously, I get loads of bookings, and it's going very well in wrestling for me right now. But it's also something that I'm looking at, see how long I'm actually going to do this, because I am a bit older than the general wrestler around here, at least. So we'll see if the body holds up and if I'm still going strong in 5 years or not. But I mean, regardless, Aliss Inc. is going to be doing something. and I'm gonna have a lot of fun on the way. That's the plan. Hopefully get to do some more stunt work as well. That's always been the dream to do that at some point along this journey.
Maybe you could be in Friday the 13th, the musical.
I mean, why not? Let's pitch it.
Oh yeah.
Me as a going to viewer.
What is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off you as a pro wrestler?
I'd say I'd say for if we look at the entire run, I'd say definitely look up Bodyslam from Scandigraps 2021 and then onwards. And I think a lot of this is available as well on IWTV, if not most of it, because it's always my main promotion, so to speak, has been Bodyslam. But there's a lot of other material out there as well, and obviously Slam now as well, winning the women's belt. It's going to be up and coming things there as well. Had some very interesting matches, and some of them are up on YouTube around Europe and the UK. And obviously, don't forget about Stardome. I'd say I'm actually very very proud of my run there, even if at the end maybe I took a few losses, unfortunately. But it's still some. Obviously, anything in Stardome is going to be good quality, but it's I'd say it's definitely worth checking out if you have access.
And what you mentioned some matches on YouTube. Which one specifically?
Ooh, well, I'd say possibly. Which are my favorite? My personal favorites is also. I'd say maybe just because it's also a very dear place in my heart as well. Being like the first win at a bigger stage. I'd say maybe actually the finale of Scandinavian 2021. I'd say it's one of my favorite matches. Maybe not my technically absolutely best one, but for the emotional stakes in it, I definitely say that one. But also any match that's out there with Emerson James. She's obviously technically mastermind. It's gonna be a good match.
Okay. And if those matches are indeed on YouTube, I will grab them and I will put a link to them in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. For anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to re-see them after this interview. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I mean, probably not. This sounds scary, but let's go.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Eddie Guerrero.
Worst wrestler.
Worst wrestler. I mean, there's countless bad wrestlers out there as well, unfortunately. I'd say people being pushed out too soon into wrestling is never a good idea, regardless of who they are. Worst wrestler is always going to be someone that had or did not have potential, but it's was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't think of a name right now, honestly. There's obviously bad wrestlers and bad matches, and bad matches from good wrestlers or people that could have been, but they weren't.
Would you like the default answer?
What is the default answer? I'm curious.
You have chosen Eva Marie.
Oh, okay. I mean, I wouldn't call her the worst wrestler ever, though, because I've definitely seen worse live. But all right, that's fair. If that's the default, it's a default.
That's the answer we've gotten the most that was not prompted. They just said it, so it became the default answer for anybody that doesn't want to answer.
All right, let's go with that.
Your main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Julia.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Oh. The game, I think.
Motorhead.
Yeah.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Complicated.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast.
Oh, okay. I've never actually heard that. Is that an American thing?
Yes, it's an American joke, at least.
I will remember that from now on. Thank you for educating me.
Yes. Squash, vegetable or fruit?
I'd say this is probably wrong by all standards, but I'd say vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's used as a vegetable, so I feel wrong calling it a fruit.
Like a tomato, it has seeds, which classifies it as a fruit. But you're part of Squash Squad, and that means a hell of a lot more. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Okay. I'd say for comfort, just below the butt cheeks. For views, the bikini cut.
All right. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No. The ratio to population versus wrestling fans that watch it, that watch the bigger products here is very, very slim. However, had people come up to me and said they've seen live shows where I was on. So that has happened. No one's ever asked about Darby Allin, though, unfortunately, which is a shame because I do actually appreciate watching his work.
And that's the correct answer.
Awesome.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
I appreciate that. And once again, where can we find all things Aliss Inc. on social media and your merchandise?
I am mostly active on my Instagram, Aliss_Inc. But I'm also available on Facebook and on a little bit on Twitter. Not so much posting, but retweeting sometimes. So you can obviously find me there. And yeah, otherwise, check out the shows. Come see me live.
And where can we find merchandise?
Merchandise is, I do sell it mainly at the shows right now, but you can also DM me if you're interested in getting any specific merchandise, and I'll see what I have in stock.
Perfect. And you don't have to type it into your Google machines. All of the links to all her social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shark.
Yes. New motif coming out soon, so yeah, make sure before they're gone.
Perfect. Pre-order now. with your movie tickets.
Yeah. Is that gonna scare people off though? I'm a little bit worried.
No. They know. Oh, of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on X, Reddit, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
Alright.
For our special guest, Aliss Inc., Calico Yacht, Scooter Dust, I am James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys, we appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.